Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first steps, a holistic approach to baby and me. My name is Michelle Mansfield. Today, we'll be talking about the not so complex world of eating real foods versus industrialized processed foods. It is all about the news in regards to keeping it real, like I like to call it, versus the processed foods that are out there. And you may be overwhelmed, wondering what's real, what's processed, how can I tell? What is on a label? Is this just another marketing gimmick and a way we should be eating that's going to change in 10 years? With a just kidding, this isn't really how you should be eating. I will tell you this is not that. I will make it simple for you and give you some easy pointers in regards to keeping things in your mind when shopping, cooking, and feeding your family and yourself. Real foods, in a nutshell, are foods that we've been eating for a super long time. I'm talking 1 to 2 million years ago, and when we were back in the days, cavemen and cavewomen striving and thriving off of these wonderful foods that we would hunt, gather, fish. And this goes up to just about 8,000 years ago when things like whole grains were introduced into our world. So, what did we hunt, gather, and fish back in the day? Well, things like meat, fish, that's what we fish for, fowl, eggs, leaves, nuts, berries, and honey. So, those are things to keep in mind that have been in our bodies and in our diets for up to 2 million years. Real foods are also cultivated foods. Um, Wheat, rice, beans, and things that we make from them, like beer, bread, and wine. Those are the more recent things up to 8,000 years. There's also dairy, which many people say, well, I don't drink, milk because we're the only species that drinks another species' milk. Well, I'll tell you what, we do a lot of things that a lot of other species do. And that isn't the only reason why we shouldn't be drinking milk. The main point here is drinking the right kind of milk and eating the right kind of dairy. And so that is something we've been eating and drinking dairy for 10,000 years. It's been a part of our lives. You don't need to have it in your life, so if you choose not to, no big deal. I do have it as a small part of my life, so when I do have it, I keep it real, I keep it whole, and I keep it the least processed as possible. Real food is prepared how it always was before factories and manufacturers and people with hairnets and gloves came into play, changing and rearranging things and making things not what they used to be. Real food is whole and complete, and talking about factories and gloves and hairnets. It's not taken apart. It's not grinded up and processed and things stripped away from it. Real food, unless you have an allergy, in my opinion, heals and prevents many diseases and things that are going on with our bodies lately. Industrialized processed foods actually depletes our body and inflames our body. Inflammation is huge in our world right now and a main cause of many of the chronic diseases that we're seeing out there. So a lot of, because industrialization strips so many things away, so many nutrients, vitamins, and things, they try to add them back in later in the processing, and they aren't necessarily real nutrients. You aren't absorbing them properly, and they actually are doing it more harm than good to your body. Real food is the only food with true natural coloring. You may see that natural coloring on the food label of the wrapper that you are picking up. That actually is not necessarily true. Natural food coloring is only natural when you pick it from the ground and see it in your own eyes. For example, a strawberry, the red, that is natural food coloring. I make, when I do have, for example, maybe, a little treat for my daughter for her school and they're icing, sugar cookies, I will squeeze strawberry juice instead of using red dye into, homemade frosting that I make. And that is truly natural food coloring. Real food benefits have never changed. Industrialized food seems to always be changing with making you this more or making, you have less of this, which is, mostly a marketing gimmick. And real foods have always done what they're going to do. They give you the nutrients they've always given you and the health benefits that they've given you for millions of years. So our industrialized food as well, in regards to that, are more recent foods that you need to think about. So sugar in the 1600s, margarine in the early 1900s, and corn syrup, specifically high fructose corn syrup, in the 1970s. These are all very recent foods. They're manufactured, changed, rearranged, processed foods that have actually done more harm to our health than good. Um, Also, the way that industrialization, works with food is their goal is to make foods last longer on the shelves. If you look at expiration dates on the shelves, on a box, on anything, and you look and you're like, how is this going to last that long? It's kind of creepy in a way if you think about it. Any of your processed food aisles, the shelf life and how long that those foods stay on those shelves, the ingredients and things that are stripped out of it is actually, making the shelf life longer, which manufacturers love. And they can just, they can keep it on there. It's not spoiling or wasting. One of those nutrients that is essential in our lives that many food manufacturers strip away is fiber, which is such an essential nutrient in our bodies. They strip it away because it decreases shelf life. Our bodies need fiber, and many times these manufacturers are putting it back in, fortifying your foods and putting it back in, which isn't usually the real deal. And like I said, we want to keep that real fiber in there. Another thing is industrialized food is mostly imitation. So stay away from the imitations. And I always like to think, what would my grandmother be making? She used back in the day real butter to bake everything. She made bread. Excuse me. But the bread that she made in her kitchen was consisted of real ingredients. The stews, the soups, the dinners that she made consisted of real ingredients. Do not be afraid of butter. Keep it real, keep it grass fed. And, in regards to keeping it real, a lot of things that we need to be thinking about is less buying out of the package and more cooking at home. My favorite author and food advocate, Michael Pollan, has many books out there, talking about this. He stresses getting back in the kitchen and cooking more and using real ingredients to make wonderful meals for your family, making it a ritual so we all sit down at the table together. I know it's hard in the busy world that we have, and our kids are involved in so many activities. But if we try to be conscientious of the ingredients in our foods, even if they do come in a package, because there are good options out there in a package, then we can just give better health to our families, because industrialized food, unfortunately, is, as you see with our healthcare world, is not doing us any good out there. So that is my real deal, keeping it real in a nutshell. If you want to learn more about this and what real foods are out there, how to shop for them, what you can use them for, and where you can find certain things, why don't you go to my website, which is www.r-first-steps.com. I do one-on-one personal coaching. I do group classes. I'm going to be doing webinars. I blog and write. So there's many ways that you can connect with me and find a way that works for you to educate and empower yourself to better health for you and for baby, and even for other people in your lives. Until next time, I thank you for joining me, and have a wonderful day and keep it real.